Mr. Ego Akereka joins us. He's a member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors, a journalist. He joins us from our Abuja studio. Mr. Akereka, thank you so much for coming on the program. But before we get to...
Good morning, Jeffrey.
Good morning, good morning. Before we get to the papers, we'd like your quick take on this directive by the Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development on prioritizing passengers who are serving military officers whenever we're boarding and perhaps boarding the aircraft.
Well, it's interesting. I was listening to your conversation this morning, very interesting conversation. I'm sure that is topical. Most Nigerians would be interested in this. But taking it forward, I would, in my view, yes, it's a good initiative by the minister. The minister has been doing quite well in the Ministry of Aviation, and he's taking the right steps. This one is, I must tell you, is top-notch thinking that he has just brought on. But yes, you talked about the salary and all of that, and those who come to the airport to receive high-profile individuals, you know. For me, I would think that beyond just giving them access to the aircraft, why can't we also consider appealing to the airlines to give service personnel discount? If a flight ticket costs 200,000, for example, you can request a service personnel to pay half of that amount. So you give a rebate of 50%. Maybe that will get many of them flying, you know, rather than just say, okay, anytime you see them, let them come in first before any other person. So the other question is, do they even have the resources to fly? So maybe to really show that we are committed to this, we appeal for discount, or the government can give some kind of support by providing discounted air tickets for them. So that's my thinking really this morning. But overall, it's a fantastic initiative. They've laid down our lives they laid down their lives for the rest of us. Every day we read reports of fallen servicemen. Just day before yesterday, I guess, a lieutenant colonel was killed in Bama. That is the battalion commander of 122 tank battalion. He was killed along with some of his soldiers. And that is what happens every time you have to look at the fight against insurgency and insecurity across the country. So even if you pay them salaries, like you earlier mentioned, how much will you pay a man to sacrifice his life? You know, it is the height of human sacrifice to lay down your life for others to live, for others to sleep, for peace to be in your country. So for me, when I see even policemen, I thank them. I thank soldiers when I see that. I thank the men and women who have the courage, the bravery to lay down their lives for the rest of us. It is something every Nigerian should key into this morning. It is something every one of us should support. Great initiative. And I'm sure when we do that, of course, there will be some reciprocity from them. They will appreciate that.
Mr. Akereka, well said. And I say the eyes have it on this particular discount you asked for. I think it's a brilliant idea. Now, I'm sure the minister may be listening or will listen later. I think you should go a step further as you propose that if there can be some discount so that they too can fly. And, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's a welcome development. Let's get to the Vanguard newspaper. Is where we'll start off from. And it leads with the protest that happened in Abuja. Court remands Kanu's lawyer, brother, 10 others in prison. And we have a couple of rioters there. Defendants chanted war songs. That's the allegation by the police for their arrest. I'm safe but still in Kuje prison, Ejimako. Wabara demands release of Kanu's brother, others. We are mimicking democracy, that's according to Farrell to me, I think he said that here. False police judiciary. Action Aid Amnesty International condemn assault on protesters. Ms. Akereka.
Well, it's unfortunate that we are at this bend again. Protest is a fundamental right. You know, I have a civil society background myself as president of the CLO. I think that the government by charging them to court, for the police to intervene violently, forcefully, firing tear gas and chasing them around the streets in Abuja, arresting them and taking those arrested to a magistrate court, remanding them in Kuje prison. That is the height of, for me, some kind of legal recklessness on the part of the authorities. They weren't carrying any stone, any sticks, you know, and they are just protesting that it is time to free Nnamdi Kanu. In the first place, can we even evaluate the trial of Nnamdi Kanu generally, Mazi Nnamdi Kanu? He's been in detention for about 5 years now, and he's been fought and back. For me, I would commend the current Director General of the DSS, Oluwatosin Ajayi, who is committed to prosecuting this matter. He wants to see an end to it. He wants to bring a closure to it. But unfortunately, the judiciary itself, I do not know the interest in this Kanu's case. The judiciary itself is dilly-dallying. You know, at one point, judges will recuse themselves. It's either the lawyers will ask judges to recuse themselves, or the judges themselves will just stall the matter, and then the matter starts de novo, starting afresh. It's been fought and back. We've had the Federal High Court order the release of Nnamdi Kanu. The Appeal Court upheld the judgment of the Federal High Court for his release, and the federal government will file fresh charges. What is the interest of keeping Nnamdi Kanu in prison? The last time the president exercised his prerogative of mercy by proposing the release of over 190 detainees. Most Nigerians thought that Nnamdi Kanu would be on that list, but he wasn't there. Now, if he's not there, why not just fast-track his trial and let us put a closure to all of this? The protest organized by Showore, it is the height of frustration by many Nigerians who are just simply tired of having Nnamdi Kanu behind their bars. You know, there are people who are even getting amnesty from the government. We are talking about, we have people like individuals, terrorists, who have killed people whom the government is waving the olive branch at, asking them, you know, to come for rehabilitation, granting them amnesty and all of that. I can't recall any time I saw Nnamdi Kanu physically bearing any arms or commanding some group of people, leading them to shoot at people and kill people, take over communities. Yes, he set up the Biafra radio where he was broadcasting messages that, you know, that has the content of incitement and all of that. Yes, that is it. So, but if government feels that's an offense, prosecute the man and let him have his jail time if he's convicted. But keeping him there, I do not think it is in the interest of anybody, including President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, who himself is also trying to cut the Southeast. This morning, I will call for the release of Aloy Jimakov and the 10 others that were detained in Kuje prison. The police was overzealous. It was not necessary. We've seen several cases, including the contemporary protests, whether in Nepal, whether in the United States, whether Morocco, everywhere where the police, you see the police providing security for protesters and not actually attacking them, shooting tear gas, beating people up physically. When you do that, you know, then if the protest takes on a violent dimension, it's a razor blade balance. If you are not careful, it can tip to the other side, where more citizens can join the protest and it can get out of hand. So why do you want to embark on a sensitive matter instead of just protecting the protesters? Show some civility in policing standards and policing ethics, instead of all the time we are used to from 1960 that we had independence, we have the colonial police, which the colonialists were using, you know, to antagonize and confront, Nigerians. I think that behavior was inherited from colonial powers, and I don't think the police have shared themselves of that behavior. It is time to police democratically, for the police to imbibe democratic ethos and ethics and tenets in policing standards, such that some civility and civilization will be brought in. This is very unfortunate. It is tragic. It does not speak well for our country at all.
Well, Mr. Carrier, let's go over to the Guardian newspaper. And the attention of the Guardian newspaper is on connectivity this morning. It says 5G promise fades as pricey phones services shut out poor Nigerians. So that's how The Guardian leads today. There's a breakdown of the connections. 2G, there's about 38.4% Nigerians on 2G network, 7% on 3G, 51% on 4G, but 3.27% on 5G. That's about 5.6 million connections in 2025. There was a lot of excitement. I remember then during COVID, almost like the wrong things coming together, 5G, COVID. But anyway, it became excitement. But so far, a lot of Nigerians are not maybe jumping on it just yet. But I need to take this story on the front page and maybe get you to respond to it. Don't designate Nigeria country of concern. Kuka appeals. It's on page 3. So there's a bill, the Congress in the US, and it's gaining momentum. In fact, you see a lot of narrative about it, interviews, conversations, protests, and all of that. But you see, Bishop Kuka, who's one of the leaders of Christian faith in Nigeria, the Catholic bishop, saying, don't designate Nigeria country of concern now. What do you make of that? It looks like the US seems to be taking this more serious than Nigeria. But we had the advisor to President Trump also speaking and saying, well, it's more of both sides also getting hit in this.
Well, it's a sensitive matter. Don't forget, at some point, Nigeria was designated as a country of particular interest, where the U.S. government believes that there is a gradual extermination of Christians from their communities in the country. During the administration of President Joe Biden, at some point there was a whole lot of advocacy that that be lifted, and towards the tail end of the Biden administration, he lifted that ban, and that enabled Nigeria to have access to U.S. arms and ammunition, receive some funding support and all kinds of support from partner countries, that are affiliated to U.S. and its interest. But now with Donald Trump, Donald Trump has never hidden his interest, with regards to protection of Christians around the world, including Jews in Israel and all of that. Trump has never at any point hidden his interest, and he has been beaming his searchlight on Nigeria, where, killings, has been taking place, whether you are looking at Plateau State, Benue State, and particularly those two states, they've been of particular concern, even to Nigerians, where you've seen a whole lot of killings. Since the advent of this administration, the Bola Tinubu administration, we have seen a deliberate attempt by the federal government to rein in these terrorists. There are people who, sometimes I read in the newspaper, the media, categorizing and characterizing these killers as herdsmen. These are not herdsmen. Every time I had the opportunity to speak on this issue, these are terrorists. People who have RPGs, who have military-grade equipments, and you say they are bandits, they take ransom, they take people on ransom, they overrun communities, and you have to pay them taxes to access your farms and all of that. These are terrorists. And I think that this is where Nigeria has to be very, very careful. The federal government has to be very, very careful. I have been following this report. The Trump envoy who came in, he was trying to strike a balance. And with Kukas appealing this morning that Nigeria should not be designated, means that the issue is getting serious attention in the U.S. Congress. Well, if we do get designated, that is going to be very, very bad news for the country. It's not going to help us at all. But that's also a wake-up call on the federal government to take more decisive action. It is time to declare total war. I remember in 1967 when, Ojukwu, in May 1967, declared parts of the Southeast, part of the Southeast Territory, Biafra Republic. Gowon, who was head of state at the time, initially declared police action. And after some time, he declared full-scale war on that region. So since Since 2002 or thereabout, we have seen the growing intensity of the attacks, by these terrorists. So what are we waiting for before we declare full-scale war on them, evacuate communities, and then take on them? But with regards to also the possibility of designating Nigeria, how many churches are standing today in the core north, whether in Zamfara State, in Katsina State, and some of these places where you have the hotbed of this crisis? Where is the hotbed of this crisis? How many churches are standing? In Kaduna State, particularly southern Kaduna, how many churches are standing? So these are also issues we have to interrogate. Some of the churches have been destroyed. The federal government or state governments have to rebuild those churches to instill confidence in the Christian communities, and including mosques that were destroyed, rebuild them so that people will have a sense of inclusivity and freedom to practice their religion. If we do not take these steps, it becomes difficult to convince the United States that we are taking steps, to possibly, make the environment safe for people to practice their religion. It's a sensitive matter, as I said, and there's a need to be very careful. Yeah,
Mr. Akeraga, it's absolutely a sensitive matter. Perhaps the nuances of the United States or the West in this time will give us that wake-up call to be able to see how we can begin to have serious conversation, having that brutal honesty as a people, the things we're evasive to in terms of conversation. If there are persons, which I believe there are, who have Islamization agenda, the government has to crack down on them. There are people that don't want these Muslims to exist. The government also has to crack down on them. This fence-sitting, trying to be diplomatic and trying not to offend our sensibilities has brought us here. And before it escalates beyond this point, we have to be brutally honest. And I totally agree with you. And I hope that the government will sit up and do what is right to be done as far as extremism is concerned for whoever is pushing this agenda. Let's get to the New Telegraph. The New Telegraph is we'll go after enemies of our sovereignty. We'll go after enemies of our sovereignty. That's coming from the Chief of Defense Staff. The writer says, peace, security built through trust, dialogue, cooperation. Sultan seeks support for military, decries fake news. Green Chamber passes bill to amend Armed Forces Act for command structure accountability. Mr. Akeraga.
Yes, I agree with the Chief of Defense Staff that there's a need to go after terrorists and reclaim lost territory. But beyond the rhetoric, because me too have been, I'm tired of rhetoric coming from the military. We will go after, we will do this. Just get it done. Go after them. When you go after them, Nigerians will know that the military has changed the battle tune, and that indeed it is no longer going to be business as usual for anyone. Rewarding people with, some form of amnesty, trying to engage in dialogue. I do not subscribe to, the strategy of engaging terrorists who will come to peace meetings, slinging their AK-47 rifles, some carrying RPGs, and you say you are discussing peace with them. What kind of peace is that? And the military sees all of this. So are we saying that these small bands of terrorists are stronger than the Nigerian armed forces? I think it has to do with the political will to take on them and crush them once and for all. I will appeal to Mr. President this morning, give the necessary directive to the armed forces of Nigeria. I am confident the Nigerian armed forces is one of the strongest in Africa. They have the equipment. I think what is happening here is, political balancing, interest balancing. If you do this, would there be a backlash? I remember when, during the tenure of former President Goodluck Jonathan, when the late Chief of Defense Staff then, who died in an aircraft, gave marching orders to the military. Ihe Jirika was the Chief of Army Staff at the time also, went all out, to take out the terrorists. And you saw individuals, some individuals did not say that, they are killing our people. So when you find people who are sympathetic to terrorists, who will not rein them in as they are raining havoc on communities, I see that as a problem. There are people who whip up religious sentiment that, oh, these people that are being killed, they are decimating our people. The government should ignore all of this and for once go after anybody who is bearing arms, who is taking up communities. That way we will know that we are ready to reclaim our country. But the way we are going, I have my doubts.
All right, let's head to this Nigeria, which takes a detour from the other main stories from the protest and the other issues to the focus of deliberations of the Senate from yesterday. Defile a minor, gets life sentence. Senate approves. Sets 10-year minimum for rape. Moves to amend criminal code. Reviews abortion provisions. And we understand that that also caused a bit of a stir on the floor of the Senate yesterday when Senator Akpoti-Uduaghan tried to reopen the case after the Senate had closed deliberations on it. But we saw the different colors of debate over, that abortion piece of it. I wonder what sense you're making of this, Mr. Akiria, from the proposal on defilement and the debate on the abortion from the Senate yesterday.
Well, I followed the debate on the floor of the Senate yesterday, and I was just asking myself, what are these senators talking about? What are they really doing when majority of the senators themselves marry minors? I mean, I don't understand. Are they trying to tell Nigerians that, they are interested in tackling the menace of minor defilement? Look, we have 19 states in northern Nigeria who practice who practice Sharia as a form of Islamic religion. And we knew during the period of Olusegun Obasanjo as president, when the former Zamfara state governor introduced Sharia as a form of, reform in Islamic worship, and many of the states in the north quickly adopted it. We've also seen senators, proudly saying on the floor of the Senate that they've just married, their newest wife, and it was a topical issue at the time. I think it was a 9-year-old or 13-year-old girl, and nothing happened. So when you have, like you started the conversation this morning, the cultural inhibition, the cultural blockade, where a part of the country believe that, it is within their culture and tradition to marry minors. So when somebody can marry minors, so at what point, how do you define who is underage, who is a minor? And then you have one country with two legal codes. In southern Nigeria, you have the criminal code. In northern Nigeria, you have the penal code. The penal code seems to be soft on the issue of, defilement, marriage of minors, and all of that. So are they really serious? So for me, I was just having some retrospect. What kind of law is this that they are proposing? Is it enforceable? How do you propose a law that is not enforceable? That cannot take a life on its own, that is acceptable across all nooks and crannies of the country? I see a lot of barriers to this, but we'll see how they proceed. I just see this as an effort by the Senate to make it look like they are working and they are busy. For me, the Senate is busy doing nothing. The economic challenges confronting the country is quite enormous. Poverty is serious. I want to see a Senate that is addressing these issues, that is making laws that can put money in the pockets of Nigerians, that can alleviate the poverty level of Nigerians, that can grant more access to out-of-school children, that can raise the standard of quality of health, access to health facilities, fund education properly, and not pursue some vain legislation that is unenforceable.
19 northern states, 12 of them, 12 of the 19 that you mentioned have expanded Sharia to include the Islamic criminal law. So it's 12 of the 19 actually that have it really ingrained. And I'm sure a lot of these senators would, because a lot of them are not here to defend themselves, but a lot of them, particularly when you say majority, will say, well, maybe that's not us. But that point has been taken. We've had a lot of them also speak in support of it. But just to put it in context, that 12 of the 19 states have Sharia, and perhaps not majority of the senators practice that. But I must also add that, Mr. Ikeria, isn't it interesting that it was unanimous on the floor? All of them agreed to it. So isn't that interesting? Does that lend credence to the fact that a lot of them have changed?
There's no absence of laws in Nigeria. The laws have been there. The laws punishing defilement of minors have been there. So, but for some of those senators who married minors in the past, what happened to them? We've seen, these things are there. The reports have been there. If you go into the archives, you see the reports. The names are not hidden. The names are there. So what has happened? It is one thing to pay lip service. Everybody can agree that, oh, this law, we like it, you know. Well, we want to see, let them pass the law, and then we'll see how it is enforced. But I'm just worried that some of the first victims of the law would be elites, Nigerian elites, maybe including some of the senators themselves. You know, so we'll see how, like I said, we'll see how it goes, how we proceed from here. But I'm not excited that because it went, you know, you have the law, the proposition had unanimous support backing, and that it was adapted if it's even going to see the light of the day. Because at some point, you will see some senators proposing that it should go into an executive session to have a review of the law. Now, the extant law that is prevailing, to what extent have we enforced it? Have the police enforced it? Have law enforcement agents enforced it? I remember Bukola, you know, at the beginning of this of the show, also talking about the complicity of law enforcement agents, how they let you know, some of these abusers go away after maybe they part with money, compromising the system. So it is an elite problem, basically. Yes, that is not to say that we do not have a few cases of people, individuals who are not privileged, also getting involved in this very obnoxious and condemnable practice. It is in India. It is one of the highest crime in India, where you have rape and people abusing minors. You know, in Nigeria, it is also gaining some form of traction. It should be severely punished. But my worry is the cultural barrier, the cultural inhibition to this law. If we can address that cultural barrier, then we might be making some progress. But in the absence of that, I have my doubt, as I said earlier.
Well said, Mr. Ego Akarega. As a matter of fact, as you were talking about it, I just thought to myself that I have a saying that everything rises and falls on the poor. So try and be rich in every legal way possible. I'm telling you.
Absolutely.
Ego Akarega is a journalist and a member of the Nigerian Guild of Editors. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program. We appreciate you always.
It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure.
All right, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll get to a very interesting another part of the conversation that you'll love to be part of. Join us in just a moment to find out. We'll be right back.